Hi everybody, welcome today to our topic on how to leverage Citrix APIs to deliver better value to your customers. Essentially, we're going to talk about four different things today. The first one is how to use the power of Citrix APIs to really deliver better solutions and better value to your customer implementations. And as an example, we're going to talk about Zen Mobile MDM APIs, and we're also going to talk about OData APIs for Zen Desktop. And we are finally going to touch on EG and how EG is using all the other APIs available in Citrix to deliver better value to our customers. So with that, let's start with what Citrix brings to the table with all these different APIs that they deliver. As you can see here, it's a rich environment that has a lot of different functionality, and every different component that you see here has a powerful API attached to it. So you've got a lot of different flexibility in terms of what you can deliver to your end user if you can tap into this effectively. As you can see, there are a lot of different ways: Nitro API for NetScaler, OData API for Zen App and Zen Desktop, which is quite powerful and we use it a lot. And web services, ShareFile API, even ShareFile APIs, web services API for Zen Mobile. So a lot of interesting stuff. And it covers the entire spectrum of products that Citrix is delivering. Let's look at, for context, for our first example, for context, a full-fledged Zen Mobile / Zen App, Zen Desktop implementation. It's primarily BYOD, and you can see all of the different components involved in delivering this to the end user. It's a rich tableau of infrastructure and applications that are connected together, and you've got network layer, you've got the application layer, and then your Zen App, Zen Desktop pieces, and then your mobile pieces, mobile works on the top. Now we're going to use this environment example, and the first one we're going to focus on is, did I click too quickly? Okay. So this is actually the use case one. This is a Zen Mobile environment. It's a BYOD situation, and in this situation our customers wanted to track compliance of their end devices, endpoint devices that were connecting into their environment. Every time there was a non-compliant device connecting, they wanted to be able to send an alert, automatically send an alert so they know what is going on. At the end of every day and every week, they wanted to know how many non-compliant devices were connecting into their environment. And they also wanted an overview of how many people are using their environment using Zen Mobile, and a general weekly report on how things were being used and consumed in their mobile environment. So the focus here is going to be on the Zen Mobile Device Manager and the MDM APIs in this example. So this is an overall architecture of how we are connecting to the Citrix Zen Mobile MDM. From EG Enterprise, we are sending in a service request using XML, SOAP HTTPS request, and we get a response back. And we are using the WSDL web services, and these are some of the WSDLs that we depend on to get this data. You've got every WAN user group that, obviously, as the name says, gives you details about what's going on in the user group. Every WAN device, you get device details out of this. A lot of interesting information in there. Application access policy, the policies you set in your environment, how they're being used, and every WAN package details on what's getting deployed and what is not being deployed. So with using these, we were able to get to a point where we are collecting statistics, and you can see here, using our technology and using the API from within, we were able to track passcode non-compliant devices in this example here. So that means every time there is a device connecting into your environment, a mobile device which has got a non-compliance password, we'll be able to pick that up, and they can set thresholds on when it gets alerted. And so this is an example of passcode policy in that Zen Mobile setup. So you could get to that level of detail, and the API enables you to get that information. So we took that, we put a wrapper around it and sent an alert for it. And you can also basically drill down, and you get all this data from the API. So we can tell the serial number of the device, the OS being used, the device model, OS version, all of this from the API, and you can also see the owner. Essentially, these are the devices that are non-compliant. So you not only know non-compliant devices are connecting, but you also know all the details you need to about those devices. So this is a good example of how you can exploit this to deliver more value to your customers. Now, these are some of the reports. After you collect those metrics, we were able to do a report that showed you how many passcode non-compliant devices were connecting over multiple days. And we also did a report on how many managed devices over a period of time. So how many mobile devices are being managed by the Zen mobile platform over a period of time. That gives you an indication of how good the adoption is and how popular these devices are becoming in your environment. As you can see in this example, over a period of 3 days, the adoption kept increasing over a period of time. Here's another example on unmanaged devices. So we were tasked to task unmanaged devices, track unmanaged devices, and report on how many devices that were getting out of connection with the Zen mobile platform and becoming essentially unmanaged. So they lost their ability to connect and communicate with the device manager server. So these were the number of devices. As you can see, over a period of time, they also kept increasing. And again, from the API, we are able to get the jailbroken devices. Obviously, you don't want, and most of the organizations don't want jailbroken devices to be able to connect to their environment. It's a potential security risk. And our customer wanted us to be able to track that and report on it. So using the API, we were able to get to those and get the details. So you can see this over a period of time. And last but not least, we were tracking adoption over a period of time, and we were seeing how it was changing over a period of time. So this is a 3-day graph, and you can see during the middle of the day about 80 devices. Let me go back. During the middle of the day, about 80 devices connect, 80 plus devices, and during the middle of the night, it drops in. So you can see the usage pattern, time of the day, when they're using most and when they're not. So again, all this data is collected from the API. So with that, I'm going to switch to the second use case, and this is using the OData API and in a Zen desktop platform where we were looking at essentially tracking logon slowness. So our customer knew that some of the logons were getting slow in their environment. It wasn't impacting the users as much where they were saying, I don't want to use this anymore, but they still want to be able to see why the logons were getting slow and what was happening over a period of, they wanted to see why it was getting slow. They wanted to get a track of what kind of impact we were having when the user logon times were getting slower. So in this, for context, we are going to be focusing our API collection on the Zen desktop, Zen app. So we are using the OData APIs, and we're going to be collecting metrics from that specific area. So this is a high-level architecture of how this connection is made. So EG Enterprise is connecting to the desktop delivery controller using the OData API. It's again a HTTPS service request, and we get a service response. And the objects accessed from the schema are the following. Connection, obviously it gives you details about when the connection started, what kind of connection it is. Session, again, when the session started. Desktop group, you would know where the desktop belongs, and machine, what machine it is, catalog, load index, and the user. So all of this has the ability to give us different information about how a login is being, how a login is happening within the environment. So with that data, we are able to get a complete breakdown of the logon information. So from the various APIs that I mentioned in the previous screen, we're able to break a login down end to end and say average logon duration is about 94 seconds. And using the API, we can break it down and say how long it took on the brokering. Okay. How long it took on the brokering, how long it took on the brokering, how long it took on HTX connection, how long it took on the scripts, how long it took on sessions. And you can see here the profile load. Oh, that's what's going on. The profile load is taking a long time. So essentially, you're able to not only break down Logon into different components using the API, you're also able to get to focus on where potentially the problem could be. Now, this is great information. This gives you an idea that profile is where your potential slowness is. What we did with this was we were able to correlate that information, so we were able to alert on it. So they wanted to know when user logons were slow, and they wanted to be alerted on it. So that was accomplished here. And we were able to also break down and say, using the API, this is the area where slowness happened. So this is a report where it's comparing multiple different load times within the login and shows you where the slowness is. So we went one step further when we started looking at correlating this information with other KPIs available in the environment. So then we were able to find out that profile server obviously is managing the profile activity, and we were able to, within the profile server, find out that there is disk contention within the profile server. So that means you are able to correlate that information and say the disk contention is happening during the same time when profile loading was slow. So really the problem is at the disk level, where the disk is running out of capacity or has high disk activity, and that's the reason why your profile load time takes such a long time and why your Citrix user logon is taking a long time. So that's a quick snapshot of how we were able to use the OData APIs, get more detail into the login process for our customer, and be able to potentially give them answers on where their slowness could be, helping them resolve it. So within the correlation, we were able to get drill down even in the I/O piece, and we were actually seeing that there is a backup EXE running that is potentially causing the problem. So this is essentially breaking down the profile slowdown into where the potential problem is. And last but not least, a good report on when the potential slow logons happened and who are all the users affected by it. And you can see the breakdown here. You can see the logon time taken for different users. They had a threshold of logon taking over X number of seconds they wanted to be reported on. And in this case, we broke it down and started reporting on users with long logon times. Again, pretty much all of this information here is collected from the APIs, OData APIs that you've seen before. So with that, after those two use cases, I want to touch on how EG is using the power of all these APIs that we saw earlier to deliver a better managed performance for the Citrix customers. So we leverage all these APIs extensively, and we've been working with Citrix for a very long time. These APIs provide you rich performance and business and usability information. And essentially what we have tried to do with this is get this data that is being collected in different platforms within Citrix, consolidate all the information into one platform where you can see all this performance data, correlate it, and convert it into meaningful information. So what we try to do is we cover all these different pieces. In addition to that, we are also looking at all the other support infrastructure pieces, application pieces that work around Citrix, and we're able to get you the complete visibility. Essentially what happens is if any of these infrastructure or application pieces have any potential hiccups, you are essentially looking at a situation where Citrix performance is compromised. So with our ability to get to the APIs and all of these pieces and the support pieces around in the ecosystem, we're able to give you what we call total visibility into the Citrix performance. That's a lot of clicks. And when things start going bad like this, you really want to be able to have the performance view across the board. If you just look at Citrix or just look at a couple of areas within Citrix, you're going to miss the overall performance piece and you're going to struggle to find where the problems are. But if you have coverage everywhere with EG, you are able to find out where the root cause is. And we'll see an example of that in a bit. Another thing I want to talk about is essentially, as Mark was talking earlier this morning, Citrix is about managing the entire service, not just a bunch of components. It's a service that is being delivered to the end user, and slowness is the new downtime. If you are able to look at the entire service and understand how it's being delivered to the end user, you're able to manage the performance in a much better manner, and that's what EG delivers for you. As you can see, a topology, it's going beyond the metrics being collected, going beyond simple components. Here, it understands how the service is working and being delivered to the end user. You can see all the different applications and components. And importance of root cause diagnosis. So when you use API and collect all these statistics, you have this rich data store that tells you about performance across your infrastructure, on the Citrix, across your applications, across your user experience. But if you don't have intelligence running on top of it, you're essentially looking at a bunch of metrics. Anybody can collect metrics. What happens when you're collecting a lot of metrics without intelligence around it is you see problems everywhere. So in an example like this, you can see 6 potential issues. But with root cause analysis on top of it, with EG, you're able to differentiate where the real problem is as opposed to the effects of the problem. And you can see an example of that here. That means this is now information that you can act upon instead of data that you're just scanning through. So total Citrix performance management. What does it deliver? It delivers user satisfaction. It reduces IT support complexity. It reduces infrastructure. It helps you. Even if you're not doing total performance management, if you're able to use the APIs properly and get performance data out of those, you are now being able to use the hardware that you have, the applications that you have, to maximum capacity. You've got different applications vendors telling you that, oh, if you're running Citrix, you can only run 5 copies of it. Have you really run it in your environment and tested it out? Most of us basically say, okay, if the vendor says 5 copies, that's all I'm going to run. But if you use performance management, if you get some of these metrics out of the platform using the API, you'll be able to really see if you can handle 5, or maybe go to 10, or maybe even 15. We've got a lot of customers who have broken through a lot of those barriers because they have visibility using these APIs. They are able to see how the performance really is. That means they can get a lot more out of their infrastructure. And a lot of good things can happen when you listen to your customers and deliver them what they are looking for. It's not just everything that is out of the box. As you can see in the performance API metrics that we saw earlier, there is a rich variety of metrics available for you to deliver different value propositions to your customer. If you are able to use these APIs and maximize the value that you're delivering to the customer, it's pretty simple to connect to, it's pretty simple to exploit, it's quite straightforward to use, and you can use it to deliver a lot of your customer requirements if you start using it focused on that. This is some of the EG customers. Using the APIs and using our suite, we were able to deliver excellent value to a lot of these customers. We are in booth 412. If you want more information on what EG does, you guys should stop and take a look. And that is next steps. And I want to mention one thing here. We talked a lot about I gave you a couple of use cases and talked about how we use the Zen Mobile API and how we use the OData API to deliver value to our customers. We will be uploading some code snippets into the developer exchange. You guys can check it out and see how easy it is to just get data very quickly from these APIs and use it however you need to. All right, with that, I want to thank for you guys for watching this, and have a great day.